Okay, so almost done here. Um, the distinction between public and private is an important matter in the Republic, and it is something that is still with us today. Many sort of civic issues come down to this uh, issue between what is public and what is private, and how do we define those things, and where do we disagree on those things. But the Roman Republic, the government was made up of three different parts. There were the consuls, which were two elected officials that were elected yearly, and they held executive authority similar to a president. There was the Senate, which was a group of elderly statesmen that provided counsel to the consuls. And then there were the assemblies, and this is where sort of the public had their voice. These were outdoor public hearings, and citizens were able to vote not as individuals, but voting in groups. Um, so similar to the way that you cast your vote in a presidential election in your state, and then your state has a certain number of votes that are then given to the Electoral College. So a little distinction between a democracy and a republic. All right. So there were two primary groups of citizens. There were the patricians, as we've already talked about. These are the older families that were socially and politically superior, strong ties to the aristocracy, or they just were the aristocracy. And then there were the plebeians, which was pretty much everyone else, excluding slaves. Um, and while the Roman Republic is thought to have been maybe a little more democratic than most other societies, there was still a strong imbalance of power. The patricians were able to create policies that served them well so that they could increase their wealth and increase their privileges. Um, but this meant that there were gross abuses of power. And they often forced people who were in debt to them into slavery to pay off their debts. One term that you'll need to know is the struggle of the orders. This is not a full-blown civil war, but it is a sort of struggle between the plebeians and the patricians, in which they sort of worked out some new laws to better suit both of them. So the plebeians wanted more rights, and patricians wanted official government roles. So the struggle of the orders was their way of coming to terms on both of those things. All right, a really important aspect of Roman society during this time were patron-client relationships. So this is a complex and informal system of patrons and clients. So while the other sort of forms of government that we've talked about are more formal, more structured, this is something that sort of came about naturally. So patrons, who were often patricians, provided what were called kindnesses to their clients. These could be loans, these could be legal aid, business advice, social connections for people wanting to move up the social ladder, and things of that nature. And the clients, in turn, owed financial and political support to, that's supposed to say to their patrons, excuse me. So they might have to pay some sort of tax or duty to their patron for the services that they offer, but most importantly, they offered political support. So that meant their voting. So oftentimes patrons were looking for more political power, might run for some sort of office, such as consul, and they would rely on their clients to vote for them. So I want you to imagine that, every morning clients would come to their patrons' houses and maybe follow them around the city. And this was in one part practical so that patrons could hear the needs and complaints of their clients and help them out. But it was also largely political. So imagine that, say, Joe Biden is a patron and running for consul in Athens, or not Athens, excuse me, in Rome. And he has lots of clients, and he wants everybody to see that he has lots of clients. So he's going to walk around town with them, and then we all think, hey, look, Joe Biden has a lot of people voting for him. He must be pretty powerful. And you might say, I want to jump on that bandwagon. Or you might say, I don't like how much power he has, and I'm not going to vote for him. Or, whatever the case may be, these sort of patron-client relationships often took on a very strongly politicized nature. All right. So Roman life during this time, people were very religious, um, almost superstitious, you might say. They worshipped regularly at temples devoted to different gods and goddesses, much as the Greeks did. And they strongly believed that their success depended on regular sacrifice to the gods. So if they were unsuccessful in something, they were likely to attribute it to a lack of piety. Maybe they hadn't been attending to their religious duties very well. Uh, Family was also an important part of Roman life. The family unit was the primary social structure. Um, these families adhered to strict structures with fathers or the paterfamilias at the top of the household, uh, and that was followed by the wife, children, slaves, and sometimes even ex-slaves. We would see the paterfamilias being responsible for their well-being. Um, and We also see worship of ancestors during this time. So often they had sort of shrines built to dead family members, potentially with their likenesses either in stone or in paintings held there. And there were quite a few political marriages or arranged marriages that had some political or social advantage. All right, that is it for today. Don't forget to take your quiz. It should already be posted. And for Friday, make sure that you have completed all of your readings, and we will be meeting on Zoom.